So that would be one that actually exception to the spinning rule. If I can spin and then take your back and strike you in the back of the head, I'll do it.
Backswing, low down.
Attacking low is really stupid. Oof.
And stop suffering.
I'm just hungry. You should have thought that before you became poor.
My name is Andrew Hall. I'm a HEMA practitioner. I've been practicing since 2013.
Hi, my name is Paul Suda. I'm a HEMA practitioner, and I've been practicing HEMA since 2005 and riding horses since 2007. We're here watching gameplay from Kingdom Come Deliverance. I'm stoked because my grandfather's from Czech Republic, so I'm just super stoked to be in that world.
I'm stoked about this because this is one of the more grounded games, and I'm wondering to see if they actually know what they're doing and represent what we do better than most others.
Yeah, I remember the development, they were advertising heavily. Oh, we got practitioners of swordsmanship, and we put cameras all over them, and we look very closely, and you're kind of zooming in and out, and you can go first person.
Yep.
I'm really interested to see how it goes and how it looks, too.
So, shall we fight?
The armor looks great, and it's not even just completely shiny. Yep, that is how it will look from that armor. Your vision is very limited.
It'd be even worse. You wouldn't be able to see his waist.
And it's
slit.
hard to breathe.
Ooh! No, I like this a lot. Again, this is rough because it's like part of the trick is what are you not seeing?
Yeah.
Who's behind you? That kind of thing.
And don't forget, sword and mace. Mace is a really good weapon against armor.
Let's just completely smush all this what are swords called nonsense. In the times we're referring to, they called swords swords.
They weren't that complex or that much of a stickler about classifying this kind of sword, this kind of sword, this kind of sword, this kind of sword. That was something that came much later.
Well, it's weird. It's like we have weird names for stuff. They had a bunch of different names for like, they knew what this little like webbing on your hand, they had a name for that. So like they knew a lot of different words for stuff we don't think about anymore, but they didn't call swords a bunch of different specific things.
They just called it a sword, whether
sword.
it was one-handed or two-handed. It's just a matter of looking at the grip. Is there enough space for one hand or two hands? They weren't that precise.
This is like a 19th century anachronistic thing we've been doing, but people are arguing, there's nonstop argument about this right now with HEMA people.
We have better things to argue about.
Since there's basically no masters of this, there's no masters of HEMA, or no way for someone to be a master because no one has trained with someone who trained with someone ... from the Middle Ages.
We have not need to practice the longsword for what, 400 or 500 years easy?
Yeah, like we're jealous of the Japanese because there is actually an unbroken lineage of masters from people who practice right now, all the way back to when they were killing people with swords.
There you go. Looks like he's willing to yield. Yielding was something that knights did.
Oh, well, there you go.
Here we go. Yeah. See, that combination is very reasonable. Cutting with the true and the false edge and stabbing.
Backswing, low down.
Attacking low is really stupid.
Attacking low can be a risk. Yep. Parrying then into a sort of a ox guard. In terms of styles, for the longsword, I will use both German and Italian. They both have very good tools from each, and if it works, I'll use it.
And the longer we look at the manuals, the more similar they look.
Yeah, think of it as two different coaches trying to win the same game. They have the same rules, they have the same objective, they just have different strategies to get to the same place.
Okay, this is the part where I'm probably gonna get real, like,
picky. Tournaments were not just for show, they were practice for war. It was as close to a wartime setting as you can get short of actually trying to kill someone.
Well, it's weird because it's like, number one, these guys had to have something to do and they had to practice. And they also had to kind of generate some kind of hierarchy between each other internationally in a way. But also it's like the medieval knights, especially in like the 12th century, like kind of like the right before things got really nasty, they were like soldiers and cops and all,
tax collectors
and bosses.
Enforcers.
And professional athletes. Now, people are arguing about LeBron right now.
Yep.
Well, there'd be a knight version of LeBron that people would be arguing about. It's like, he's the greatest knight since this guy or this guy. Oh, the marshal's better. Oh no, the French and the Dutch sort of started the tournament thing, but like the English got pretty good at it.
Yep.
You know, there were Germans who were good at it.
The only thing I have criticisms of with both the long sword we saw before and what we're seeing here, which is a arming sword and a shield, would be they're not using enough half sword and enough of the pommel. Because the blade's not going to cut through that plate. However, you can use the pommel and the crossguard as an improvised hammer and just beat away at them. Now, this is really interesting. This is actually
putting armor together?
Yeah, putting armor together. And there's a gambeson, there's something on the arms, there's something on the legs, there's something on the head. And now you have another layer over the...
And it goes layer by layer.
Yeah, layer by layer.
Real. Okay,
and you have
interesting.
some of it's padding, some of it's mail, some of it's plate.
And again, like because of the game, you can get different pieces upgrade different times. So it's like you have this mishmash. The aesthetic is weird too. Oh, it's like the Mandalore. It's like you have a better helmet, but not so good of a pauldron or something. And now he's doing a turn. Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yep, that's a common guard.
Yeah. Oh, is that a little slow
There we
motion?
go.
happening?
Yep, slow motion when you're
That's smart.
dodging.
That's smart.
So that would be one actually exception to the spinning rule. If I can spin and then take your back and strike you in the back of the head, I'll do it.
Yeah, as long as
Not spinning in front of you.
Well, because if you can't see behind you, but if you can feel behind you, you're good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
There we
good.
go.
That was pretty cool.
A grab and then throw.
Yeah, and kind of using the shield as
Yep.
well. That was smart.
I mean, this looks pretty good, honestly. They get far more right than they don't.
Ooh, that was nasty.
Against a better fighter, you can't just assume that they're going to attack in a stupid way that reveals himself. You have to create an opening.
I also like that the shield is also a blind spot when you're holding it up. That's cool.
Yeah.
So you can't see through that.
Those thrusts to the face they definitely add up, and they're reasonable. It's one of the few places where you can't have as much protection as you'd like. Again, you can either limit your vision or you can see and breathe better. What he did there, he took the shield and after he parried, he pressed down on the wrist and on the hand. So
Yeah.
that way his hand's bound up and can't do anything, and now he's vulnerable. That's a very common thing in sword and buckler. Boom!
Oh, that guy has an axe. Okay, very cool. Honestly, the
looks like they
hooking
just-
thing
yeah,
is it's tricky. I wouldn't expect them to do it, but if they did, I'd be super impressed.
It looks like what they did, they just took the halberd and turned it into a one-handed weapon. It'd be very top-heavy,
yeah,
but it would work. That's a battlefield weapon.
But again, you need a shield because you can't really. It's too slow to defend with well.
Yeah.
You need something else to defend yourself.
One of the most common targets of almost any weapon system for hundreds of years was the hand and wrist. It's oftentimes the foremost target. Oh, here we go. Yep. So he tried. Looks like there was an ambush, and he caught him without a weapon, and he wrestled him, grabbed him, pushed him away.
Cool.
And that is very reasonable. There are parts of the manual where they devote to wrestling and how to deal with someone with a weapon when you don't have one.
Something unique. Actually, we should mention this. Something unique about HEMA. In HEMA competitions, you can grab and throw people. Now you have to do a controlled takedown. You can't just pick them up and throw them into the air. But if you get close to somebody and you put them on the ground and it's obvious you're in control, that's usually the most points you can get for a move. And it looks so cool.
And people will cheer you because it's hard to pull that off.
It's really hard. Not a lot of folks train it properly. And if you kind of get like tagged a little bit, people can be like, I don't know about that. But if you throw someone on the ground and stand over them, everyone's like, yeah, that guy's dead. This is over. It's no question. Can someone hurt your horse in this game?
Yes.
Okay, so that explains. He stopped the horse, he dismounted, he's like, I don't want my horse to get hurt or lame or whatever. I'm
Who's
gonna
this person
face
in the
this
way?
guy, yeah.
Yep, one strike was all it took on
Yep.
top of the head.
No, I like this.
Especially when you have no armor like that.
Pretty
Not
realistic.
everyone can afford armor.
Yeah.
He's a peasant, he's attacking with what looks like an axe. Coup de
Oof.
grace.
Oof.
And stop suffering.
I'm just hungry. Should have thought that before you became poor. So he's kind of looking at above your wrist, or how do you
It looks like when you're
above your knuckle?
You're getting used to the aiming. There is no reticle. Certain nobility and royals would do that to practice hunting because that was a pastime that they had the privilege to practice, and it got them used to blood and viscera as well. For example, if you're a royal or a knight, you may have the privilege of hunting deer in the royal forest. The forest was not defined as how we would define it today. The forest was a legal term for a legal jurisdiction that only a certain class of people had the privilege of hunting in. If you were a peasant, especially in places like England, being caught with a sharp arrow hunting the king's deer was a serious offense.
Yeah, it's in the Robin Hood story.
However, you can practice with a hunting blunt, which is basically like a hard sort of fist, and aim for things like quail or squirrels or rabbits and kill them, and not spoil the meat and not break any laws. For hundreds of years, England had a law, if I remember correctly, where every Sunday, every man between the ages of, I think it was 7 or 8 and up to like 40 or something, I'd have to double check.
Had to practice archery.
Had to practice at the butts, because when war came, those same men who practiced at the butts were called upon for battle. And by the time they're 13, 14, they have 6, 7 years minimum of training at the butts in archery.
Well, wasn't there a problem where like people wanted to play football or something? And
Yes.
it's like, no football, only shooting arrows.
No football on Sundays. You can only shoot. And there you have it, guys. A little crash course on how HEMA was reflected in Kingdom Come Deliverance.
If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to Gameology on Facebook and YouTube.
We hope we had as much fun as we did.
Cheers, folks.
You go first.
Smolder! Now it's your
boy.
turn to smolder.
Subscribe to Gameology on Facebook and YouTube. Like the video. We like the video.
we
We
had
like
a
this
lot-
is cool. And I've been riding horses since 2007. I'll do that slower.